Hi, everyone, and welcome to Barefoot with Spirit podcast show, and a special welcome to those in the Mediums Lounge community. I'm your host, Leanne, the Barefoot Medium, and I'm incredibly excited to connect with you. For those of you who don't know my work, I'm an international medium, twin flame, transformational coach, and intuitive criminal investigator who is blessed to connect with people from all over the world with their loved ones who've passed over and to bring through guidance and insight to support you and what your soul needs, wants, and desires in life. Now, before we get started with this episode, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I stand and on which my guest stands, and pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and First Nations people who are tuning in from around the world. So kick off your shoes, take a deep breath into your heart space, and imagine yourself stepping into this beautiful sacred container for a deep conversation, connected conversation with myself and my guest, James Steed, or Jim, on transformation through walking meditations. Welcome, Jim.
Welcome. Thank you for having me here.
Absolute pleasure. Now, Jim is a semi-retired lecturer, an Ericksonian hypnotherapist who's found a unique way to apply cognitive therapy, which I love, and I'm going to talk to you more about, to mindfulness practices. He's the author of Mind Your Steps, a thoughtful walk meditation practice, which offers a simple self-help approach to neutralizing anxiety and depression by transforming disruptive thoughts during walking meditation. A really amazing background you have, which I'd like to kind of dig into first, if that's okay, Jim. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you've started doing this work that you're doing now.
Well, I grew up in Southern Illinois, which is a very rural part of the United States. And, didn't have a great background there, and a lot of stuff went on, and so it kind of affected me pretty badly, you know. A father who was a rageaholic and depression and this stuff going on in the family. Back then, nobody knew much about it. So they were doing the best they could, you know. Yeah. And so I went through some stuff, and I went to the university, and then I learned Chinese. I wanted to learn Chinese because I wanted to get as far away from Southern Illinois as I could. And I went as far, I came all the way to Taiwan. So if I went any further, I would be getting closer. Yeah. So that's how far I went. And I was doing very well because I also had other majors in teaching English and this and that. And I got to Taiwan and did very well. I got a wonderful job at one of the best universities here. Began running a private language school, which became very successful and very large. And I thought I had everything just wonderful. That life had become just the way it should be. And I thought I had everything together. Then one day, a teacher left a book on the sofa in my office. And the book was called Struggle for Intimacy.
Yeah, wow.
It's an old book from many years ago. It's about codependence, this and that, right? But I have a bad habit because I like to read books backwards. I don't like to wait. I don't want to read the whole book to get to the end, right? To find out what happens at the end. So I read books backwards.
Okay.
So I read this book backwards, and this thing called ACOA, which I didn't know what it was, but really understood the world. I thought, oh my God, finally, this ACOA person has got it all figured out. This is a genius. Finally, I meet someone who knows what the world is like, and I get to the beginning of the book, and I find out that that's a sick way of looking at the world. that ACOA meant adult child of an alcoholic. I said,
Ah,
you mean the world isn't really that way? So I ended up going back to the United States. I went to San Francisco and opened
okay.
a school, and because I couldn't find a job, I opened a school there too.
Yeah.
So I thought I would do my therapy at the same time. So I went
Yeah.
through all kinds of therapy, 2 or 3 different psychologists, but they kept doing this inner child work, which is okay, but they also had you wallowing and wallowing in all of this stuff that happened to you in the past,
Mm.
right? And I
Mm.
just felt like I was being traumatized and re-traumatized and re-traumatized, and I just felt more and more stuck,
Yeah.
rather than stuck in the muck, you
Yeah.
know. But also what happened was I wanted to quit smoking because I had smoked for many years. So I found this advertisement by a hypnotist that said, quit smoking in 1 session. Okay, let's try that. All right. So I went there. He said, do you really want to quit smoking? And I said, well, I really love smoking. Let's put it this way. I want to quit smoking. Is that okay? Okay, we'll try it. All right.
Yeah.
So after his session, poof, I never wanted to smoke again.
Yeah. Okay.
Never wanted to smoke again. I thought, oh my God, if hypnosis can do that with such a, I mean, I was terribly addicted, and I was the kind of person who would get up in the middle of the night going hunting through the trash can looking for a cigarette butt,
Right. Yeah.
So I thought,
Right.
oh my God, if it can do this, and all, what else could it do? So I decided to stop all of the psychotherapy, and I started studying hypnotherapy.
Okay.
I started studying hypnotherapy just to take care of myself, really,
Yeah.
And I thought, so I did. I went through years and years of hypnotherapy training and this and that, and I came back to Taiwan and started doing a hypnotherapy practice.
Okay.
And then I met these people who were I was teaching psychiatrists and psychologists in my home, and they would take it back to their hospitals and use it. Right? But I met one who was a meditator
Okay.
and wanted me to go to a meditation retreat, right?
Okay.
A Vipassana meditation retreat.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. All right. So still, like, I thought I had it all together, right? I thought I'm totally okay. I went through all the hypnotherapy and I'm very successful over here. Everything is peachy keen. Then I started doing the walking meditation. And one of the things that I'd always had a problem with in psychology, when I was seeing the psychologist, is my childhood was kind of traumatic and I had almost no memory of it.
Mm.
All right. So I had amnesia for most of my childhood. Plus, I never knew I never knew what I was saying to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never knew. I mean, people say you have this self-talk and this and that, and this is the things that are bothering you. But I never heard any voices, or I never heard any self-talk, because I just go through the world feeling, right? So
Yeah.
So as I was trying to do this walking meditation, all of this garbage started coming out of my mind. I don't know where it came from. I mean, it was dramatic. It was like soap opera, the most disgusting, ridiculous arguments and rehashing the past and being scared about the future. All of these voices started coming out to try to interrupt my attention to my steps. Right. And let's look at steps as being our life.
Yeah.
Okay. That's our
Yeah.
life, our path, right?
Yeah.
And these voices or these things, this drama was not wanting me to pay attention to my life as I was moving along.
Mm.
And luckily, I have a sense of humor. All right. Luckily, I have a sense of humor. So no matter how disgusting, how ridiculous, how scary, how whatever, to me, I just started laughing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Beautiful.
What is this? We in America we have these soap operas. One is called All of My Children, and the other one was The Edge of Night, and the other one's The World Turns and stuff. I thought, oh my God, don't tell me that my life, my wonderful life, is just all messed up with this soap opera drama going on at the unconscious level. So I can laugh about it. So
Yeah.
I started having fun with it, right?
Yeah.
But at the Vipassana retreat, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to only say, I know, and go back to walking, paying attention to your steps. If some thought comes in, I know, and then keep going back. But, you know, I hadn't heard those things before. I was interested in them. So what I did, I just thought I would do an experiment. I thought, well, I'm going to go walk backwards to where that thought began.
Mm.
And I used some of my hypnotherapy at the time, not cognitive therapy, and neuro-linguistic programming, meta model stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So I used that to retrain the thought. So I went back to where the thought began. I revised the thought, and then I began to walk again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So every time a thought would come up, if it was just some thought about the future or what I'm going to eat tonight, then I didn't worry about it. I just said, I know. All right. But if it were something that was kind of like messed up, you know, I would walk back, retrain it, and then go on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I go back where it began. Because if you ever studied, have you ever studied or taken part in timeline therapy?
I have. So my background's psychology, criminology, and teaching. So you and I share a little bit of background in that regard. And I want to pick up on a couple of things you've said before we go too much further, because there's some interesting stuff there that I think we can dig into to really connect people to how walking meditations can help transform. And I love that you talk about that. You mentioned about trauma and not being conscious of it is really what you're talking about. And often, psychoanalytic therapy or a lot of those types of therapies, and that psychology is my background, do get you revisiting trauma and talking about it and going back through it. And I love how you mentioned it, because when we feel, it's the only way we can heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you talked about that. And I also love that you mentioned the word trauma, because our bodies and our minds are quite intelligent and can store it to keep us safe. And I know with your hypnotherapy background, you know a little bit about that. So talk to me a bit about how trauma can be stored in the unconscious, because I think that will help the listeners and viewers to understand a little bit more about the work that you're doing.
But it's stored in the unconscious to protect you. Your unconscious mind, its major job is to protect you. To protect you, basically, it doesn't like you being traumatized. All right. So it stuffs it way into the unconscious mind and creates an amnesia. Creates an amnesia, right, for it. But it's still there. But it's not running on the unconscious level, but it's running. It's running all the time, right? Yeah. But it's there, but at least it's not bothering you. So I can think everything's just hunky-dory and my life is just fantastic. And I've got the good control of everything. because that's what I need, was control of everything, right? So it was there. Now, there is a really interesting thing. I will give you a hypnosis secret, okay, that hypnotists use, and it's a trick, all right, to how to create amnesia, okay.
Okay.
Before the session begins, we talk about A, okay, and then we talk about B, C, D, and blah, 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 blah. And after the whole hypnotic session, I end by continuing my conversation about A.
Mm.
So everything in between the two A's collapses and disappears.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what got me thinking. One step, one thought. One step, one thought. So what's the thoughts going on between the thoughts?
Yeah.
So it's collapse. The things going between the two steps is all of that stuff at the unconscious level.
Yeah.
Right. That's what. And then I thought, well, wow, that's cool. That's really cool if you think about it. Yeah. So what do? The reason I walk backwards is to go back to where the thought began, changed it, and then went to the next step again. And I could replant the revised thought into my unconscious mind and continue walking.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I think there's a secret to that, you know. I think there's a secret to that. Yeah.
And I love how you talk about, you know, the thoughts beginning or similar to a step, right? Because if we're conscious and mindful and present to our thoughts, then we do get to choose them with each step that we take in each and every moment. And I like how you talk about the reversing or going backwards to replant and reprogram, because, you know, as we live life, we think, we feel, we experience life, and we have things that happen that we can either think our own thoughts and stories that might limit ourselves or hold ourselves back, or, you know, we can have thoughts that uplift us and inspire us and create these beautiful, amazing experiences in life. And we get to choose which ones.
Well, the good thing about it is that everyone, that was always the problem with me, all of this think positive stuff, you know,
yeah,
and all of the affirmations and this and that. I thought, fine, but I'm too busy to even do that, or I everything has already happened before I even start looking for the positive thought, right? It's too late. But by the time I have to make those affirmations, it's too late. But the thing about this is you go back at it's the unconscious dialogue that's bothering us. So go back, retrain it, and it may stop doing that after a while. And you don't have to continually go through your day trying to think positive thoughts all the time, because that is just something I can't do.
Well, it's just it's unattainable, right? We can talk about our mindset and being conscious and present to our thoughts. It's not that we're never ever going to have a negative thought or a thought that limits us or holds us back again. It's not true. And so I love that you talk about the going forward and the backwards, and it is about just allowing them to be. And I know that you work with the Buddhist principles in terms of a mindfulness practice with the walking meditation. Can you talk to me a little bit more about the Buddhist philosophies and how, every movement comes into their belief systems?
Well, that happened with the Buddhist thing, is that there's the thought is not even relevant. All right. Lao Tzu said, the Tao that can be named, which is languaged, is not the Tao. Right? The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So any of this conversation and all of this name calling, whatever is going on there, is not the way. Tao means the way, right?
Yeah.
So this is not the way. And we are only unhappy because we are attaching to these words and to these dialogues and to this stuff. And if we would just detach from them, because they're just static anyway, right? They're just static anyway. We detach from them, then we can find ourselves paying attention to our life and being a lot more mindful of our life and a lot happier as we go through, instead of trying to fight these words or fight this stuff going on, or our attachments to the world. All right. Our attachments are giving us pain. Our attachments are giving us pain. In Vipassana, you actually observe your pain. Okay. And most people are running away from it or medicating it. They observe it, right? And by observing it, you change it.
Yeah. And so that really brings in that word transformation as well. And I love that you talk about attachment versus detachment. How would you explain to someone what attachment is? And how does that, I guess a different way of asking it is, when we're attached to something, how do we feel, or how does that turn up in our lives?
Well, where attachment turns up a lot in shoulds. You should do this, you should do that, you have an attachment to your should, and when it isn't going the way you think it should be, then you feel uncomfortable. That is because you are attached to the should. Right? So a lot of attachment, in fact, most attachment comes up in the way we think things should be. All right.
Yeah, perfect.
And actually, shoulds are aliens. In NLP, when we're talking about neuro-linguistic programming, every time you hear someone say, I should do this, I should do that, they won't, because nobody does what they should do. Because should are alien rules. They come from other people or from society, and these are the shoulds that have been planted into us. And then if we're attached to it, then we start judging ourselves from societies, our parents, or whatever shoulds that we have given ourselves. Right?
Yeah.
So that's that attachment, right? That's one example of attachment there.
So, and I love that example because I'm aware of a few people that I know will be watching this episode who, and I can think of myself in amongst it, who have worked through the most of my perfectionism pattern and my high achiever pattern, right? Because sometimes that's how we have been acknowledged or validated or shown that we're loved and worthy or valued in the world. And so we can attach our worth to what we create, or how busy we might be, or what we're achieving. So I like how you talk about that, and letting go of the shoulds. And the high achievers often have their own shoulds on themselves.
A lot of them.
And and we all work through those as they come up.
Guilty.
So I like to say as a what do you call it, as a reformed perfectionist, but I know it raises its head every now and then. So I'll just go with it and own it. What I want to know is, when you have, or you become aware of those shoulds or those attachments, what tools or techniques, or do you use the walking meditation to let go of, or to release or detach from those shoulds?
Oh, I don't use cognitive. I use the neuro-linguistic programming they have an answer to should. So the should is for example, you say you should make up your bed. You should make your bed every day, right? And say, well, what if I don't? Is that okay? Or who says? According to whom?
Yeah.
According to whom? Well, that was according to my mom, my dad. That's what they expected of me, right? Not according to me. All right. So what would happen if you didn't?
Yeah.
Nothing. What would happen if you didn't? What would happen if you did? Is that acceptable? Right? If your should is acceptable, then okay, thank you, and go on. If it's not something accepted, you've already with the shoulds, the most important thing is to make sure that they are your own shoulds and not somebody else's shoulds. That's the important thing. So first asking according to whom? Who says? All right. Right. And what would happen if you did, or what would happen if you didn't? You say so, and then you say, is that acceptable? If it's not acceptable, then you accept the should and thank you and go on. Yeah. If it is acceptable or whatever, then you can just, what I'm kind of screwed up here.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah. So if it is acceptable, then you let it go, and if it is acceptable, then you don't accept the should and you move on. If it is acceptable, then you accept the should and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it
move
works.
On.
That's how it works. You decide whether it's yours or not and whether you want it or not, and then go on. All right?
Yeah.
But you got to own it.
Yeah.
You got to own it. If you don't own it, then you don't want it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where we brush things under the carpet or don't address them or take responsibility or accountability for it. And that's that acceptance and ownership, right?
Yeah. And there's one other good thing about the walking meditation is, all right, you lose your concentration. Don't gripe at yourself. Don't bitch at yourself. Don't call yourself a failure. Cut the drama. Be happy that you know you're off your path and get back on it. So it's kind of like the prodigal child in the Bible. Dad's glad you're back no matter what problems you had, right? So you just be glad you're back on your path.
Yeah.
Cut the drama. There's no need to call yourself stupid or ridiculous or greedy or anything else. You don't need the name calling. Just get right back on your path and move along.
Yeah.
Right? Because those are only thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're only thoughts. I used to make people walk on rice paper because you had to be very careful not to tear the rice paper, right, as you were walking, because I wanted them to tear it. Because in front of a lot of people, they would get very embarrassed because they would make a noise and this and that. And I would just tell them to go back, walk again, but finally get used to tearing the paper and not getting angry with yourself and just get right back on the path.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about it. It's like all of this drama and all this stuff, just get back on your path. You don't need to judge yourself or anything. You don't have to make these things. Your thoughts are not you. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions.
Yeah.
Right? You're not even your body, actually. Right. So let it go.
Yeah. So if someone was wanting to implement a walking meditation practice in their life, how would you recommend they do that?
Well, my book, Mind Your Steps, tells you how to do that, right?
Okay.
But what you need is about, I would say, about 10 days of daily walking before you really get to see the drama that comes. Because the first 2 or 3 days, 40 minutes of walking, and all you do is left, kick, place. Your left foot lifts, kicks in place. Your right foot lifts, kicks in place. So you go left, kick, place, right, kick, place, left, kick, place, right, kick, place. And that's all you do is pay attention to those steps as you're moving along. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the first session, you can do it pretty well. The second session is getting difficult. By the third session, the unconscious mind is saying, I've had enough of this. And then all of the thoughts start coming in. I've got to disrupt this. All right. Yeah. So after about the third session doing it, then you get to be, I get to be, but some people say get to be interrupted by these thoughts, but I'm entertained by these thoughts. All right. So that the sense of humor helps a lot, right?
Yeah.
So then you can say, I know, to be just a good meditator without all the cognitive therapy. You just say, I know, just like a nagging mother. I know, mom, I know. See, and you just, I know, thank you, I know, and then go back to your steps. Then that's really what the unconscious mind is doing, is your unconscious mind is a nagging mom, all right?
Yeah.
It's basically a nagging mom, right? Who's telling you all these things because it's wanting you to be careful, wanting you to do this, blah, 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 you know? Yeah. So I know and go on. So that's what they do traditionally. Now, for me, at the end of my book, I go through about 20 different ways to label the kind of thoughts there are. And so instead of just saying, I know, I can just say overgeneralization, mind reading, right? Yeah. Black and white thinking, you know, that kind of thing. All or nothing, you know, or projection, this and that. So I can just label it. Instead of just saying I know, I can say what it is and let it go. Yeah. Now, what's good about that? What's good about doing that is you begin to realize that you're letting go of a lot of dysfunction, right? And that makes you appreciate what you're letting go of, right? That makes you appreciate it, right? But then in the end, you can let go of all of that and go back to, I know, because after going through that whole self-therapy, you do know what you are letting go of is a lot of baloney, you know, and you're not really sure what you're letting go, but now you know you're letting go of a lot of nagging and a lot of disruption and your unnecessary drama in your life, self-drama in your life, and you can appreciate what you're saying I know to.
Yeah.
And what you're letting go.
I love that because you know, I like that you talk about it as a nagging mum. I often tell my clients when they're talking about the traditional beliefs around what meditation is, it's not just sitting quietly and doing the ohms and not having any thoughts. It's about, you know, allowing those thoughts to be and focusing in on your breath or whatever that might be for you. And I'm not someone who can sit still and do that. So I actually do walking meditations. So I love that that's what your book's about. And I do go for walks that allow me to become present to and acknowledge what my thoughts are. And it's particularly helpful. So I want everyone to know, and I talk about it to my clients like the yappy dog that's in the background going blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my God, shut up, right? And so, you know, you can have fun with it. It doesn't have to be serious. We can bring ourselves to that space and that awareness. And so I love that you talk about that.
By my fourth session, I was laughing out loud. I mean, I was laughing out loud, you know, and doing it. And another thing is, I think a little difference between my walking meditation and the general walking meditation is that we are not just paying attention to our steps, we're paying attention to our thoughts. And that's not only conscious steps, but the unconscious thoughts that are coming. So we are also paying attention to them the same way, right? But from a dissociated point of view.
And that's where that transformation and that change comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's where.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your journey, your insights around thoughts and meditation, and how walking can really help us transform. Can you share with people, Jim, where they can find a copy of your book? And we will include the link below.
You can find it on Amazon.com, all right? And it's good because I've just my marketer has told me to lower the price for a certain time, all right? So I've really lowered the price on it way down. At least the not the paperback, but the Kindle version. I really lowered the price just to make the marketer happy. All right, so I did that just recently. Don't go right away. Wait about a week or two. I think it takes 72 hours for it to go down. Right, so I've lowered it down. But you can find it on Amazon.com. I also have a website called zenex.com.tw. Zen, Z-E-N-X. I said Zenex because of Xanax. you know how Xanax is supposed to resolve. This is supposed to resolve anxiety. If you go to Insight Timer, you'll find that I have a lot of hypnotic guided visualizations and stuff that help people with anxiety. And I have one program I call Xanax, all right, where I hypnotize them into taking Xanax and having the body remember how it responds to Xanax, right? So I call it, but I don't call it Xanax. I call it Zen, Z-E-N-X, Xanax.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jim. And as I said, everyone will put a copy of the link to Jim's book on the video and the audio version. So head over to Amazon and grab yourself a copy of Jim's book as well. Thank you again for your knowledge, your wisdom, and talking to us.
I had to learn a lot about you too, about what you do and things. Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And for those of you who want to connect with me, jump on my website, thebarefootmedium.com.au. And until then, we'll see you on the next episode of Barefoot with Spirit podcast show.